and sellers. How has everybody been doing with their tracking of their results? Cassie, I know that you've been here for the whole process. How has your 10-5-1 going?
If it's possible for everybody to be on screen, that would be a much better experience.
So today we're going to move on. We're moving on in our transaction series. We covered winning with sellers and buyers, and now today really pretty much we're just going to be moving on to talking about working with your clients once you've signed a listing agreement or a buyer agency agreement, and what's the best way to build success through that. So for those who don't know me, my name is Danielle Riggs. I'm the listing specialist for the Gibbs team. And also a member of our Market Centers 2023 ALC. I worked with many buyers before working with sellers, so I'm excited to be presenting this to you today. I'm also going to be back here next week, and we're going to talk about negotiation because I love negotiating. All right, so let's see here. Erin, you can move on to the next slide if you don't mind. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to be talking about success with clients, success with our buyers, success with our sellers, success with co-agents, co-brokes. We're going to be talking about recapping and ahas, what our takeaways are going to be from today, and our daily success systems. And we'll get more into depth into each as we go through today's lesson. So can somebody take themselves off mute and read this quote from the MREA for me, please?
Virtually every top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. They have a servant's heart and place their buyers or sellers' real estate experience above all else. They are always thinking service.
Thank you, Zoe. So first step in today's agenda is we're going to talk about the time between getting a signed listing agreement and a signed buyer's agency agreement and making an offer. So what that's going to be like, what our discussions with our clients are going to be, what systems and models you're going to follow. Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. That's good to know. First step is great client communication. When you have great client communication or communication with anybody, right, it really just provides a great foundation for sustaining a relationship. Who here, raise your hand or come off mute if you've ever had to deliver some bad news to a client. Right, Zoe raised her hand. We don't, multiple offer situation, we have to go back to our client and we have to tell them, oh, your offer wasn't accepted, right? Right, yeah, Wendy, thank you. It's much easier to kind of break through those bad news scenarios when we have a great foundation of communication with our clients. So also being a great communicator, we're setting and managing expectation proactively through the transaction. That creates peace of mind for your clients and it enhances your credibility, right? We're looking to build these sustainable relationships for future business, right? Okay, you can go to the next slide, Erin. Thank you. All right, so 3 levels of service. First level is purpose. Purpose masters of service have a clear understanding of why they should be hired and can articulate it to anyone at any time. Great service begins with a clear purpose for why someone should work with you. So does anybody have an example of purpose in the way that they show that value, show that to their clients? So for me specifically, as a listing specialist, right, I specialize in my area. So when I'm meeting with my clients, right, the purpose of me being there and sharing a clear understanding with them is that, you know, I specifically help people to sell their homes, right? So I have an additional training, an additional understanding of the market, because I'm hyper-focused in that one area, right? Value proposition, the best agents can translate their purpose and why people should hire them into a specific set of services they will provide. Who here has built their value proposition? That was a part in the beginning of the Ignite course, right? We talked a lot about, and I believe, was that part of the one that the class that Zoe taught, right? Was about building your value proposition. Who has used that since we met with Zoe and we talked about value proposition? Would somebody like to share what their value proposition is?
I found sometimes your value proposition and your purpose can go hand in hand.
That's a great point, Zoe. Absolutely. Absolutely. I just use an example of I specialize, right? I'm a listing specialist. I specialize in an area, right? Could that be part of my value proposition? Yeah, absolutely. And then also fiduciary, right, is our third level of service. Highly productive agents provide a level of service based on their commitment to act as a fiduciary for their clients. They place their clients' interests above all others, even their own. A fiduciary brings a level of care and trust to a relationship that a functional agent does not. Can somebody give me an example of fiduciary to their clients, right? So that's the definition. Old car, I learned that during Ignite. I didn't know what that was. I must have missed that part of my class, right? All right, you can go to the next slide, Erin. All right, so functionary versus fiduciary. So let's dig a little deeper into the last concept, fiduciary, right? Does everybody here have an understanding of what fiduciary means? Thank you, Cassie. Everybody else, you're good? I know Wendy. We had a discussion about this when we learned a little bit more about it with Zoe, right? All right, so who here remembers the difference between functionary and fiduciary? Peter, do you remember what the difference between functionary and fiduciary is?
Well, I have an understanding of the fiduciary responsibilities. This is my first Ignite class, so I'm not sure what you folks consider functionary other than process, protocols, and the nature of those types of things. So I'm not probably well suited to give more than that at the moment.
That's okay. I appreciate you coming off mute. So a functionary has a specific task relationship with clients. They do the job by dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure we're compliant, right? A fiduciary is in a high trust relationship with the client, always puts the client's best interest at the forefront, even before the agent's own interests, right? So we find success through others. If we put our client's interests first, we may not always immediately see a return, right? But if we're doing the right thing and we put our fiduciary first, then, you know, we're gonna be taken care of in the back end, you know, financially.
Very hard to hear you.
Are you still having a hard time hearing me if I
That's
move
a
over?
lot better. That's a
A
lot
lot better,
better.
okay, all right.
I think it would be
Sorry.
great if people, if presenters have a headset, that would be helpful, but thank you.
Yeah,
Closer
no
to the
problem.
mic is better. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm closer to the mic now, and I'm sorry I'm a little hoarse today.
Sorry. Thank you.
We have some colds in our house.
I'm sure.
Okay,
Bear with me.
okay. If you look in your participant guide, there's a chart from MREA, and it should be detailing the difference between fiduciary and functionary. Just take a minute if you can to just go over the chart of some examples of a few of the distinctions. And if anybody has any questions, you just let me know. All right, dual agency. Can anybody explain to me what dual agency is?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Lucas. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Yes, from my little understanding, dual agency is a situation where a licensed real estate agent is representing the interests of both the buyer and the seller. And he must make this known to both of them.
That's great. That's right. That's a great definition. Thank you so much for sharing that. So being in a fiduciary relationship with your clients means making all decisions based on their best interest alone, right? We just reviewed that together. That, you know, who can agree that that can be a challenge if you're representing both sides in the transaction? You know, will your buyer expect you to be telling them everything about the house, even items that might not be required to be disclosed? You know, will your seller expect that the offer you're making on the behalf of your buyer is the best offer since you have knowledge of their pre-approval amount and finances? Can kind of sometimes put us in a little bit of a sticky situation when it comes to fiduciary. Which of our Y4C2Ts applies to not representing both sides?
Integrity.
Integrity, right? That's, yeah, absolutely, doing the right thing. What about trust? Starting with honesty, right? Because we just talked about our fiduciary responsibility and having a high level of trust with the individuals that we're representing. So, and especially in a dual, you know, in a dual agency situation, win-win or no deal. You know, it's hard when you've already established a relationship with a seller and then you bring a buyer, you know, that you have to remember it's win-win or no deal. So, so if you want to move on to, oh no, we're going to stay on this slide. Sorry, Erin. In addition to you owe confidentiality to both parties, how can you be sure that you're not giving away confidential information accidentally? So I'll share that New York State, Christina's our buyer specialist on our team. And when Christina represents a buyer that's putting in an offer or purchasing one of our listings, New York State looks at that as dual agency, not even dual agency with designated salesperson, because we're on the same team. It's hard sometimes, I'll have to say that, you know, there's information that normally you want to be able to share with your team so that they can support you in that transaction, and you can't share it because it's a dual agency situation. I can only imagine how difficult it is when you're representing both sides, because essentially you're negotiating against yourself, right? So you're representing both clients, potentially end up negotiating against yourself. Many agents do work with both sides of the transaction. I would just say that if you are in the PC program, make sure that you are reaching out to your PC if you're in a situation like that and you're able to, run it by them to make sure that you are representing fairly both sides and that you are holding true to your fiduciary to both sides. Also, any leader within any of your market centers would be happy to talk through that scenario with you to help you to be able to be making the best decisions for both yourself, but also for both of your clients, okay? All right. All right, so first step, we're still talking about communication, right? First step, setting expectations. We've talked about the 3 levels of service and revisited being in a fiduciary relationship with your clients. You see those as what of being a great agent. Now let's talk about how to be a great agent. How you reach the 3 levels of service for your client is largely about communication and education. As a real estate agent, you are immersed in buying and selling houses every day. It's your job, and for a lot of us, it's a passion as well. For our clients, this is something they may never have done. And even for a repeat client seller, sometimes, it's not everybody's forte. So it's important that we are making sure that we're educating them and providing them with a high level of service so that they know exactly what is going to be happening next. Setting expectations. Do you guys think that setting expectations happens in the beginning of the relationship and communication building with your client? Or do you think that it happens throughout the process? Both, right? Yeah, I think it's important up front to set expectations, but I mean, every day we go through the process of a transaction with our clients, right? Sometimes it's kind of easy to forget that they don't do it every single day, right? And that they don't know that the next step is the appraisal and that the next step is waiting for the municipal report, or that the next step is signing the contract, or some of them don't even realize, I've learned that as sellers that their attorney writes the contract and sends it to the buyer, and then the buyer signs first and then it's returned to them. They think, well, why haven't I signed this contract? So it's important to set expectations throughout the entire process. And that's really a key component to communicating with your clients. All right, so Erin, if you don't mind moving on to the next step of the next slide. Okay, so review the transaction process. So a key part of education and communicating with your client, like we just talked about, is touching on each step of the process. So we talked about during a buyer consultation or a listing presentation, introducing this process to our clients upfront initially, and educating them, reviewing briefly through this process. Now what's really important is that we're even more detailed in our communication and education now that we are moving on to the next step of our relationship with them. So we've partnered with an agent, right? We have them as a buyer. We've got pre-approved for the loan. We're setting clear search criteria so that we can find them something, finding their home, making an offer, negotiating terms. We're going under contract, vendor coordination. We're negotiating inspections, appraisals, pre-closing preparations, final walkthroughs, closing, and then post-closing process of the transaction. Who here has reviewed this process prior to taking on a new client? Has anybody used that part of the buyer consultation or listing consultation yet? So I'll share, for me, we have a pre-listing package and a listing package, right? So I'm getting their email information and I'm sending them a similar document to this prior to even meeting with them. So they have a chance to review it, has some information about Me individually, also our team, the way that we process, or the way that we, our processes, the way that we function, so that they can kind of review this in advance in the event that they have any questions. And then when we're at the listing appointment and I come with a listing presentation, right, we're reviewing this as well. And then again, setting expectations throughout the process of the transaction as to what the next steps are going to be.
I'd say too, is leadership. Like, I hope people are going through this when you're having your consultations, because this also reinforces your value proposition, right? Like, most consumers don't understand how much is going on in a real estate transaction. They believe that the moment you find the house or you get a contract accepted, that it's essentially done and
Yeah.
it's sold, and they don't understand all of the other parts that you're managing behind the scenes.
Can I tell you, you really do build strong relationships with people when you over communicate to them, right? So I've never personally had a client tell me that I bother them too much, or I call them too much, or I'm giving them too much information, right? So we can get really busy in the background. To Zoe's point, that was a great point. Thank you for sharing. We can get really busy in the background, and it's kind of hard for our clients to see all the work. We know all the work we're putting into these transactions. We know every step and every phone call and every email. We don't really know that unless we're communicating that to them, right? And we're educating them about the steps. So something we've implemented into our business and that works is that regardless if there's any changes, we speak to our clients at least once a week. So every single Friday, we make a phone call to our clients and we tell them what we've done for that week and what we plan on doing for the next week, and say, you may hear from me before next Friday if there's any changes, but I want to let you know this is what's going on, right? And just really setting a clear expectation as to everything that we're doing. That is part of our value proposition. That is part of all of our value proposition. Okay, you can move to the next slide. All right, so set time expectations.
What's the bold law? What's the bold law? People will communicate. Maybe this isn't what this is referring to, but I'm initially thinking like, okay, when am I available for you to contact me?
Mhm.
Time expectations.
Right, right. I'm trying to think of what the bold. I'm not sure. If you find it, let me know. So setting time expectations. For example, if you told a buyer they need to get out to see properties the same day they hit the market 2 months ago, when they were focused on getting their down payment together, they won't likely remember details. So if you're now setting up a search, you should update them on how quickly the market is moving or not. You know, it's important that we're abreast to what's happening in our market and we understand where our market is now, but more importantly, where our market is heading. Make it clear why it's important to shift their schedules around to the point of inconvenience to see a house that fits their criteria. I'm not really sure right now if that is super applicable since we're in a shifting market. However, if you had a buyer consultation with somebody 2-3 months ago and it took them a little bit of time to either pay down some debt so their DTI was better, or improve their credit score, come up with more funds for a down payment, they may likely not remember all the details you reviewed at that time, which is another reason why it's important that we are setting expectations throughout the process and reminding them and continuing to educate them throughout the process. Okay, you can move on to the next slide, Erin, please. Thank you. So set document expectations. You'll most likely need to go over the contract before you ever see a house with your buyer and before showing begins with your sellers. By going over it now, when there isn't a time pressure, they will have some more familiarity before they need to rush to putting in an offer or decide on accepting an offer. So depending on your area, I know upstate they're writing contracts, and I know in other areas of the state they're writing contracts, specifically with the the Hudson Valley, we're receiving a purchase offer or a binder, or, you know, some type of document that's laying out the details of the offer, right? It's important to speak with your clients, whether it's a buyer or a seller, as to what that process is like. So can somebody who is not working come off mute and tell me a little bit about how they set expectations when it comes to documents with their buyers? Lucas, do you have experience with setting the expectation with documents? A little secretary.
Well, I have little experience, but the experience is more of because I use concierge. So
Okay.
the two buyers that I've ever worked with, I got the pre-approval from them. I got their address and their statements. Then I forwarded to concierge, and they assisted with the document, the lead paint, attestation, the application, and all of that.
Okay, so concierge sends over the documents and they take care of that administrative responsibility for us, right?
Yes.
Is it still our responsibility to explain those documents and the process in which it takes for us to, you know, set the expectations with our clients? Are you having that conversation before, Lucas, and explaining to them what documents are going to be sent to them and what everything means?
Yes, we had a conversation, and I explained to them that some documents will be forwarded to them through DocuSign. They should review the documents and make any necessary inputs. Then they will sign and return. So I told them the documents they should expect.
That's great. Awesome. Now, does anybody have any experience with explaining documents to sellers, right? So we received offer or multiple offers. Can somebody talk about the document expectation conversation that they have with their sellers?
Sorry, let me quickly come in again. One challenge I had was explaining to one of the buyers, the prospects, why she needed to sign the exclusive agent's form.
Okay.
She was like, why would she have to sign? What if she finds something else through another buyer? Eventually, she signed it though, but it took me a while to be able to explain and convince her to sign the document.
And what tools did you use to explain and help her to see why she should sign that document?
I told her it is not any legal thing that will put her in any trouble, or she won't be liable for anything. She's just signing it, and by signing it, she has 100% of my commitment. It shows that I am sure that she is working with me, and I will be ready to give all my time. And I can even work with other colleagues within Keller Williams to ensure we deliver on our desire to get a house.
That's great, Lucas. Thank you. It sounds to me like you revisited your value proposition, right? And talked about why it's important to work with you, and you know, how she benefits to working with you. So that was a great conversation to have. Good job. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll share for me when I'm having the conversation with sellers, I do explain to them the process during the pre-listing and listing presentation. And when we receive, before we even go on the market, before we receive offers, I'm explaining to them that every offer is going to come with pre-approval or proof of funds, or won't be considered. We want to make sure that every buyer coming in and presenting offers is a serious buyer. And then I'm explaining the document by sharing the document with them and going through every step-by-step, what contingencies mean, a lack thereof of any contingencies, and going through standard contingencies like we see on an average offer, right? Inspection, mortgage, attorney approval. Those are all standard contingencies that are written into our purchase offers. And when I'm having that conversation, just like Lucas, I'm going back to my value proposition of, I shared this information with you before. Do you remember? Do you have any questions about it? And this is why it's great that you're working with the Gibbs team, because we are making sure that every person that comes into this home is qualified to purchase it. Okay. You can move on to the next slide. Setting communication expectations. Does anybody have an example of a way that they set communication expectations with their clients? So for me, I set the expectation that if I do not get to them, I will get to them within 24 hours. For instance, if I don't answer the phone and they leave a voicemail, they will hear back from me within 24 hours. I also set the expectation that I don't want to be like this mom here, right? I have my 4-year-old daughter sitting in here now with an ear infection, but she knows that on Sundays it's family day. And I set that expectation up front with my clients in communication. You're more than welcome to reach out to me on Sunday, but you will not hear back from me till Monday, right? Does anybody else have conversations like that with their clients? You can just raise your hand if you're working or you're doing something else.
After a certain point in the night, I actually have my phone set up with for do not disturb, and a text message will go out on my behalf. That apologize, I'm not answering calls at this time.
Yep, absolutely. I've gotten that text back from Zoe before, because I've said, you don't have to answer this, we'll talk tomorrow. And and I respect her family time, What about the client's communication expectations? What does that sound like? If we're asking the client what their communication expectations are?
How they want to be communicated with.
Great. Erin, I know you were popping on.
I know it could be understanding their schedule as well, if they have a job that they can't be disturbed, or their family time, really just understanding what their schedule looks like as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And maybe being proactive. We're getting to know our clients. We talked about that when winning the buyer, winning the seller. What's the best time to speak with them and how? That's a great point, Wendy. How? Do you prefer text message, email, phone call? It's easy for us to kind of fall into our communication habits, right? Maybe you prefer to text people. Well, I can tell you, I know a lot of my clients don't prefer to text. Demographically, a lot of my clients are of older age, so they don't, maybe they're not a fan of the technology. Maybe they're super tech savvy and that's how they want to communicate. That's, a great point, Wendy. Thank you. And, do they have children who need homework assistance at dinner and they prefer not to be disturbed between 5 and 8, right? These are all things that we should be discussing during the listing presentation, the buyer presentation, and then checking in throughout the process to make sure that we're meeting their expectations as well. All right, you can move on to the next slide, Erin. So set contingencies. What will happen if a home comes on the market that is perfect for your buyers the weekend your sister is getting married or out of state? I'm picking on you, Christina, because you just walked in. Hi. So what will happen if a home comes on the market that's perfect for your buyers the weekend your sister is getting married out of state?
Call another agent in the office. Call them.
Call Danielle.
Call Zoe.
Right. Call another agent in the office. Have a plan and communicate that well in advance. We all have lives, right? Who likes to go on vacation?
I do.
Love to go on vacation,
I
right?
have an experience share kind of around this. I have an agent who he just had a baby on Monday. Well, he didn't, his wife did. But, I made it called him beforehand and I said, hey, what's your like he told me how he had these showings and everything going on. I'm like, what's your contingency plan if baby decides that she's gonna come early? who you already spoke to, so they know that they're gonna be on call. And, because I can tell you, your wife is not gonna be happy if you're not in that room with her. So,
Mhm.
we had that conversation, and good for him, he already had spoken with some agents, but, things come up.
Yeah. It's great. If you're in the PC program, you have a lot of peers that you could be reaching out to. One of the things that I just love about the culture here at Keller, specifically with our group, with our, Hudson Valley and Upstate group, is that we do support each other, right? Like, we do have a environment of collaboration, and we see success through other people, and we help each other. So sometimes it's just about reaching out to leadership and saying, hey, who do you know that would be willing to do this, right? But we're all there for each other. So, but have a plan. That's a really great point. All right, next slide. Set up-to-date market expectations. Updating your client's view of the market is another way for you to show your expertise. They need to understand the realities of the market they're in. So a couple slides ago, it was saying like, oh, this perfect house came on. They need to know how quickly houses are selling. Although we're still in low inventory, are we seeing that same process for our buyers? I mean, if homes are priced appropriately, right, and they're marketed well, we're still getting multiple offers on our properties,
Yes.
right?
However,
However,
educating them.
yeah, it's about educating them, right?
But the average days on market has gone up
Yes, they
as
have
well.
It has.
So you
Average,
don't need to have an offer in within probably 4 hours like you
No.
did.
no, they're not selling in the first weekend. Even when we're getting multiple offers, we're at least getting to the second weekend. So, yeah.
I'm also finding homes that are taking price reductions and then have been on the market for 60 to 80 days, maybe longer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was reading from the Bowtie Economist today that we took a 2.6%, well, nationally a 2.6% value decrease since last month. So market's changing, the market's changing, but it's important to be up to date and set expectations with your clients, whether buyer or seller, so that we're giving them the most accurate information.
Keeping them educated.
Keeping them educated, that's right. That's right, Erin, you can move to the next slide. So set expectations seamlessly with your KW Tech. Start with your Sphere, right? So there's definitely a lot of ways that we can use the technology that's available to us through Command to continue to set expectations seamlessly. Who uses the checklists in opportunities?
We do.
We can actually send a notification of everything that we're doing to our clients. You send them an update right in that checklist. All right. All right, so we're going to move on to 3 steps to gaining referrals. Provide value, ask for help, reward. You might be thinking we haven't even put in an offer on a house. Why am I asking for reviews or referrals? Because you are already providing value. That's why, right? 68% of sellers who used an agent found their agent through a referral by a friend or a family member. All right, so first step, providing value, provide stellar service, provide education, advice, and care. Right? So even if we haven't found them something and we haven't helped them to reach their ultimate goal yet, if we've successfully been able to share our value proposition, continue to educate our clients, and really show them how much we care about them, there should be no reason why we cannot ask them who else they know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, right? Ask for help. Let people know that your business is based on referrals. Your conversations book has some great, easy ways to ask for this help. So if you look through your participant guide, there's some great scripts in there. I know that there's some great scripts on Connect. And if you've ever taken Bold and you still have your Bold book, there's some really great scripts in there as well. Reward the behavior of a referral We want to reward the behavior, not the result, right? So us specifically, we send a small gift to everybody who sends us a referral because we want to reward that behavior and show, say thank you that they even referred us anybody, even if we don't end up taking that person on as a client. So something small, like even doesn't have to be expensive, handwritten thank you note sent directly to them. Email them over a $5 Starbucks gift card, although I don't think there's anything at Starbucks anymore you could buy for $5, but hey. Yeah, it doesn't even have to be expensive. It could be something small, but it definitely reinforces that behavior, just showing your gratitude. Everybody likes to be appreciated. So, all right, next slide, Erin, please. Thank you. If your purchasing or selling experience exceeds your expectations, would you be so kind to give me a brief review? I'd also like your permission to use this as in my advertising and marketing. So finally, we're asking for reviews throughout the transaction. Has anyone in here done work on their house recently and needed a plumber or a contractor? Or maybe moved and needed to find a daycare for their children and a new hairstylist or a mechanic? How about a new restaurant?
Yep.
Where'd you start your search?
Google.
Google,
Or
right?
calling your trusty realtor.
Yeah. I mean, Zoe, you just moved here from out of state, right? She
Yeah.
said, hey guys, what's something fun? My husband and I are finally getting a date night. We got family coming from out of town. What's something fun we can do in the area? She was asking us, she was asking the people that she knows. Having a book of vendors or a log of vendors in your database is essential to our business. There's a couple reasons why. HomeSnap, which is an app that you can use it in. Now, I mean, we just mostly have everything in command. Who knows why it's so important to have that list?
So that you're the person that they go to so that they can trust you,
Yep, that's right.
build a better relationship.
Right. I have a client who I sold her a house well over a year ago, and I talked to her at least 2 or 3 times a quarter because she's from out of town and she's looking for somebody to help her with painting or a new foot doctor or something. And she's regularly coming to me as a resource, which just reinforces that relationship. And she's referred us a few people since then, right? So who else can come up with another deal as to why it's important to have local vendors in your database?
Build relationships with those people.
Build
so that-
relationships.
Because, everybody needs to sell and buy real estate.
Yeah.
So you give them the business, they give you business.
Yeah, business to business, right? So if we're building relationships and you're referring your clients to this person, there's some strategic ways that you can do that. Once you know that somebody's going to be calling them, you follow up within a couple of days just to check in, say, hey, I want to get coffee for you, learn a little bit more about your business, right? So we may not ask directly for business from them right away. It's about building the relationship with that vendor and being strategic about the steps that we're going to be taking, and reviewing vendors and getting your own reviews are essential parts of that. So we use the internet pretty much daily. And I can tell you that most of our clients are researching us before they're even meeting us in person, right? Does anybody here buy anything from Amazon without reading the reviews?
No.
No, right?
No.
Without reading reviews.
No.
Restaurants,
Yeah, restaurants,
nail salons, wherever.
nail salons, right? Hotels. What we're providing a professional service, just like those people, just like you're looking for when you're a consumer. So think like the consumer sometimes, because putting yourself in the, back into the consumer shoes and applying that to your business can really open up your mind to some strategic ways that you can continue to grow. Always make sure that you are thanking and acknowledging your clients' reviews as well, guys. Okay. So if they're taking the time to write a review, shoot them a quick text, give them a phone call. Hey, listen, I really appreciate the time that you've spent to write that review on my behalf. Okay. All right, Erin, if we can move on to seller reviews, please. Seller-oriented reviews gain attention when they address things like home selling quickly, getting asking price or above, or they're impressed by the service, right? If we're doing our job during the listing presentation, we're gonna learn that what really our client is motivated by, right? So some of our clients, they want to downgrade, their house is too big. So you're gonna focus on helping them to achieve that goal, right? And finding out what's important to them. So we can regularly get stuck in thinking that all of our sellers and all of our buyers just want to get the best deal. They want to make money, or they want to spend as least amount of money as possible, right? But if we've done a good job during our listing presentation, we're going to know what really our seller is motivated by and whether it's money or not, because sometimes they're not motivated by money. And it's important for us to understand that. And the better we understand that, the better service we're going to be providing and the better review that we're going to be receiving. All right, so buyer reviews. Buyer-oriented reviews persuade when they say things like, the buyer found their perfect home quickly, the agent negotiated a great price, the transaction went smoothly, or they were impressed by the service. So what are some other buyer-oriented statements that would be persuasive in a client testimonial? You guys can hop off mute, or you can put it in the chat.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
That's okay. What are some other buyer-oriented statements that would be persuasive in client testimonials?
They could leave a review about their attorney or their mortgage lender too. If that's what you're going with, or you're going more about the agent.
Yeah, so I mean, like, so I'm guessing what my question is like what we're trying to get at here is when we find out the motivation of our client and we understand what's important to them, right? And we deliver on that, then that's a great thing to have in a review. So some people want to find their home quickly, right? So then that's something that is persuasive in a review. If somebody else reads that and they say, well, I want to find my home quickly, right? Then that's a way for them to connect with you. Same thing with, oh, well, this agent negotiated a really great price. Well, if that's something that somebody was focusing on, then that's what, you know, they're going to write in the review. And if somebody else is reading that, that's focused on the same thing, it could be persuasive. So,
When I was in the industry, one of our key phrases that we would say all the time is not all agents are created equal, because we found that a lot of people had bad taste in their mouths about realtors from previous experience. And so in our reviews, we made sure we absolutely highlighted reviews where they made comments about where they like were working with one realtor, but then they went with us and their experience was great. Or anytime they talked about how easy we made things.
Yeah, that's great points. Absolutely. Those are definitely persuasive things to have in reviews. Now, people can write whatever they want in a review. It's just about us for highlighting it. So sharing it on social media. I'm so glad to hear that this transaction went smooth and you had a better experience than last time. Thank you so much for sharing your review with us, right? And posting that on your social media. So, all right, on to the next slide. All right, any ahas so far? I know we've covered a lot so far, from dual agency to reviews to referrals, communication, right? Setting expectations. Does anybody have any questions or anything that stuck out to them during the first part of our conversation? All right. So we're going to move on to success with buyers. You can move on to the next slide, Erin. All right, so what buyers want from their agent. A 2021 profile of home buyers and sellers from NAR, okay? So helping them find the right home to purchase, 52% of people. 24% of other, 11% of help with price negotiations, and 13% of help buyer negotiate the terms of the sale. It's important to go over this chart at a really high level. Help with paperwork was 8%, determine what comparable homes were selling for 6%, and help determine how much buyers can afford, right? So really what's important for people is to find the right home for them based on this study.
Danielle, if I'm looking at this, what I'm seeing really is that listening and really understanding their needs is one of the most important things that you can do, because that's how you help them find the right home. So it's really just about understanding and listening to what they want.
That's a great point. Thank you for sharing, Erin. And that comes back to our communication, right? And expectation setting that we just discussed in the first half of our class. That seems to be what's most important to people. And if we're going to deliver a high level of service, that's where we really need to focus our attention. So, all right, buyer needs analysis. Who goes through a buyer needs analysis with their clients before meeting with them?
Me.
Yep, Christina has her hands up. Who has seen a buyer home analysis or a buyer needs analysis? I'm sorry. I went through that with win with buyers, right? Why do you think some of these questions here on the screen would be important to our clients?
So you get a better understanding of what they're looking for.
Christina, do you ever revisit these questions, the answers to these questions with their clients,
Frequently,
right?
yes.
So it's important that, we have these questions so we can revisit it with them and say, hey, when we met, this is what, you told me that, what your top 5 needs were, but I'm frequently hearing you say that, you wanted privacy, and I'm not saying that here on this top 5 needs. Do we need to add that? Is that something that I should be adding to my search for you, right? This is imperative to making sure that we are, to Erin's point, communicating and understanding our clients to provide them with great service.
You can always change their minds, yes.
They can always change their minds. They can always change their minds, absolutely. And sometimes, especially first-time home buyers, they get into a house and they think that they want something based on what they're seeing on the internet. And then when they start looking, how many times have we seen that they've changed? Like, oh, I didn't think that I would like that. I can tell you, when I first bought my first house, I was like, I will never live in a bi-level. Guess who lives in a bi-level? Right? Sometimes our needs change. I mean, it's my second house. My first one was a ranch, but I always said I'd never do it. Told my realtor, I don't want to see any bi-levels. Well, now I live in a bi-level. So they absolutely can change their minds. And Wendy, would you agree that things in their life can change, which also changes their search?
Yes. Sorry, I'm not Wendy.
No, that's okay. That's why it's important that we revisit this and that we have this information on our clients so that we're building a great relationship with them. Absolutely, right? Sometimes we unexpectedly add to our family a little quicker than we anticipated, right? We change jobs, we relocate.
Somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Buyers' lives change or buyers' worlds change, right? Their lives change, they change their mind, their worlds change. I mean, I know that sometimes it's always not first time buyers we're working with, right? People get divorces, or they unexpectedly, sadly lose their spouse and they need to downsize, divorce, married. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Joe. Things in our lives change, and we just need to be able to shift with our clients and for our clients to be providing them the best level of service. Okay. So when we were talking about fiduciary a little earlier on, we talked about tough conversations, right? Me and Zoe raised her hand. We said we've had tough conversations with our clients. I don't think that day goes by that I don't have tough conversations with my clients.
I had a tough one this morning.
Yeah. And
Or yesterday, actually.
right.
A daily thing.
Yeah. A thorough and frequently revisit and revise needs analysis is your greatest resource in having tough conversations with clients. Conversations about what they can afford, the realities of the market, timelines, move-in ready versus fixer-uppers are strengthened by referencing the needs analysis sheet, right? Just kind of like the example I shared. Well, you gave me your top 5 things. Privacy wasn't one of them, but you keep mentioning that doesn't have enough privacy. Should that really be on one of your top 5 needs for your new home, right? So how do you make sure that we are telling our clients all of these things? What are some tools that we have to make sure to remind us that we're educating our clients and that we're revisiting, revising their needs analysis? What tools do we use so that we can be reminded of that? Smart plans, right? We talked about checklists too, and how you can check things off in your opportunity checklist, and it sends a notification, an email to your client. It's like so simple, right? You click a button, send update, client update, done. So show homes based on a needs analysis. So now we talked about how we can use the needs analysis to help our buyers stay on track, and we discussed some conversations we need to have to them. Let's talk specifically about showing homes and what the process of that is like. First, you need to find a home that fits your client's needs, right? We want to show only the best properties for our buyers. Use that needs analysis, right? That for our clients, we want to make sure that we're utilizing it at have MLS listing with pricing information and key details, including disclosures. We use a lot of technology, so we have the technology available to us to have a listing on our phone, but we can also print it out, right, and bring it with us so we have all of the information. Reviewing that MLS listing before we're even going. How many times have we received a text, an email, a phone call from our client saying, I want to look at this listing, and you're like, okay, let's go look at it, right? Like, take 5 minutes, read. What type of heat does it have?
Or they send you a listing that has nothing to do with anything that they've told you.
That's a great point. They send us listings sometimes. They find things. Ideally, they're looking on our app, right? Ideally, they're looking on our app. They send us a link from the app saying, I want to look at this property, but it didn't come to them in their search, right? So it's important that we explain to them why that didn't come up in their search. It doesn't meet the criteria that they're looking for. Mark properties on a map and answer location questions. Make sure you're using the appropriate resources to answer other questions that, in regards to school district performance or crime rates, that kind of stuff. There are resources for us since we do not answer those questions. Make sure that you have those resources at your fingertips to provide your clients with. Be knowledgeable about the property and the neighborhoods, right? Include recent comparable sales to answer pricing questions. So for me, we've always looked at it, made sure it was something that they're interested in, and then I provide them with a, comparable sales and a CMA, some comps, so we know what pricing. If you want to come prepared with that up front, that's great. Just shows, that you're going above and beyond for your clients. The one thing that I can tell you that I've received a lot of positive feedback from my clients is that I point out potential issues and concerns with each house. Why do you think that people are so why do you think that I've received that great feedback from clients?
Because they feel like you actually have their best interest in mind. Yeah, like Joe just said.
It shows you care. Goes back to trust and fiduciary responsibility to our clients, right? Yes, is our job to sell houses and do we make money doing it? No, but part of my value proposition is that I'm in this business to change your life. It's just a benefit that I make money doing it, right? And if I put people in homes that have concerns or issues and I don't point them out to them, am I really helping to change their life? No. Best possible experience. That's right, Joe.
So to
Absolutely
piggyback
right.
off of what you said, I always tell my clients that if they send me a house and I know that they're not gonna like it, either because I've been in it or I know from the descriptions, I'm not gonna show them the house, whether you tell me a million times that you want to see the house or not, because it's a waste of time, of my time and your time, if I already know you're not gonna like it and does not have anything to do with what you told me that you want. So then why look at it?
And that's sometimes part of those tough conversations that we have
Yes.
to have, right?
Yes.
Like, and I know I've heard Christina have those conversations, so it's not like that. It's just, you
No,
know,
it's
don't use
not.
that script, but she's much better at delivering
Yes.
that. And it's about going back to that needs analysis, saying,
Correct.
well, when we met, you had said you were looking for X, Y, Z. And this house is ABC, right? Like there's
Correct.
nothing similar to it. So can you explain to me why it is that you want to look at it? Like, what is it that you're interested in with this house that you are so interested in taking a look at it, right? And if they're able to successfully answer that and have, you know, validation behind what they're saying, then yeah, okay, great. But that's a really great point. Yes,
What can we do about these houses that's being listed? And you see great pictures, and then when you get there, the house is totally abandoned.
It's their filters that the photographer uses.
No, this house was basically a renovated house, and then when I got there, it was a abandoned house.
like, so it was in need of renovation.
The whole house, but when they, on the listing, the house was beautiful.
So sometimes like an abandoned house or like a new build, they'll put pictures of what that space could be to help the buyer or who's ever looking at it see the potential. Usually it's indicated somewhere
It
in the
needs to be.
description or broker remarks. If
Yeah.
it's not, then I would.
I went to like 3 houses like that in one day.
In one key, it is like if it is a digitally enhanced or digitally staged, it actually is a requirement of our MLS rules and regulations that you're disclosing that in the listing. So I would say that make sure that you are reviewing those details, and in the event that you did review those details and you did not
It wasn't.
see it there, I would say come from contribution, right? Reach out to that agent and just say, hey, listen, I went to the house. It wasn't really what it seemed, you know, I just wanted to give you a little bit of feedback. We don't have to do that on the app, right? We can reach out to our peers face to face and give them a little bit of feedback. Whether that's well received is on them, right? But you're doing the right thing. There are times where I've told people like, I've driven by that house. I don't really know if that is the right thing. I'm happy to drive by it for you and take a look before we take your time to schedule. Or if you're in the area and you'd like to drive by, just make sure it's something that you're interested in, and then we'll schedule something for you to see it, right? Because we do use professional photographers. They are digitally enhanced images. There's plenty of times I have walked into houses and I'm like, whoa, this is not what it looks like in the picture. I've gotten really good zooming in and being like, don't you look at the floor, look at that big black stain on the hardwood floor that they tried, you know what I'm saying? So just taking some extra time to review the listing and knowing the house, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you can go on to the next. So showing homes means agent interaction. Once you're ready to show homes to buyers, always read the listing agent remarks and be sure to schedule accordingly to the listing agent's instructions. Calling the listing agent to schedule an appointment when instructions clearly say they would like you to use scheduling service will not endear you to them. So I'm just going to put this out here as a listing specialist. If you do not follow the instructions and then you get mad at me because you did not follow the instructions, you are not going to get a good response from me, right? Like, is it my fiduciary responsibility to present your client's offer? Absolutely it is. But if you did not follow the instructions and I did not receive your offer because you did not follow the instructions, that's not my fault. And if you lose out on a multiple offer situation, right, there's a reason why there's instructions in there, because we all have systems and processes of how we do things so that we can better serve our clients, which in turn would help to better serve your buyer client, right? So do the right thing by your client and the fiduciary responsibility that you have with it by thoroughly reviewing the instructions, both in the agent only remarks and in showing time. Because I can tell you, I've had a seller not accept an offer that was $20,000 more than another one because the person wore shoes in their house. Because they wore shoes in their house. And it was very, very abundantly clear in multiple locations throughout the process, not to wear shoes. They didn't accept their offer because of that. So just want to make that clear because it's a pet peeve of mine. Thank you for my TED talk. Okay, home tour toolkit. I actually have a milk crate in the trunk of my car that has all of these things: sanitizer wipes, paper towels, a map, no, a first aid kit, yes, a flashlight, a tape measure. Don't have graphite for sticky locks, no. Hand sanitizer, yes. Shoe coverings, business cards, an umbrella. And I also have rain boots, right? Sometimes we got some nice shoes on or some heels or something you don't want to ruin. So I have some cheap rain boots in the trunk in my milk crate. That way, if I'm going out in Lanner, it's a muddy day and we're walking a property, then we have proper footwear. So
Kind of goes with paperwork. One thing when we created, so our team actually created these to-go containers for all of our agents. So they had all this stuff. But we would also have like listing presentations and buyer presentations, because there has been so many times that our agents were leaving a showing and another person was driving by or whatever and said they were interested in seeing the house and asked if our person was a realtor and if they could take them in, and they would last minute schedule a showing and take them into the house. So they always make sure that they had extra listing and buyer consultation packets, because stuff happens.
yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. That is a great point. Beverages and snacks and entertainment for the kids. Yeah, I mean, even if it's just some crayons and a coloring book in the back, but it just shows your level of understanding of your client and how committed you are to them. If they need to bring their kids on a showing and the kids are just not having it, and you whip out a coloring book and are like, here, or you know what I mean? Like, let's talk about commitment, right? I mean, I'd be impressed if somebody did that for me.
Next level, bring a tablet.
I actually.
Yeah, bring a tablet, right?
I
Hey,
recently
can you
just
play
started
Roblox?
thinking about doing that. The stuff for the kids.
yeah, I mean, stuff happens, but yeah, umbrellas, beverages and snacks. Just make sure that you're prepared. And like I said, I just have it looks like a milk crate. I think I bought it at Target. I don't know. It doesn't take up very much room and it has everything in there that we need. So, safety first when showing homes. Safety, safety, safety. Make sure that you have built-in safety protocols for your showings, especially if you're meeting somebody that you've never met before. So something that we practice on our team is that buyers do a buyer consultation, whether that's over FaceTime or Zoom or in the office first, and we're meeting them prior to meeting them at a location. In the event that we did not ever meet this person and we don't know who they are, we're meeting them at a public location and then having them follow us to the house, right? Just think about your safety first. Same thing, like I know that when I'm going into a house, I'm doing my research about that person before I'm going in there, right? Like I'm Googling them, I'm Facebooking them.
Facebook stalk.
Especially if I know that I'm going into a home where it's just a single man that lives there alone, right? Like has no kids, has no spouse, and I'm walking in, I'm making sure that I'm prepared. I know that I can call here. I can call anybody, in leadership or on my team. And there's, just a few things you got to say, few right things. It's Gary's coming for dinner.
Tell Gary I'm late for dinner.
Tell Gary I'm late for dinner. Thank you. My husband's name has to be Gary, so that can work out too, right? Like, tell Gary I'm gonna be late for dinner. My husband knows if I text him a certain thing, that means that I'm not safe. My location is always on my phone so that he knows where I am and he knows how to get to me in the event that I'm in a situation.
There's also an app called Forewarn that agents can have access to, and it runs background checks on people. I highly encourage you to think about it. And this is a little shameless thing that we did, and this was not the intent of forewarned, but we would also use it to confirm all of our new leads that we had the correct contact information, because obviously it pulls their phone numbers and stuff like that. So that app could serve dual purposes, might be worth looking into.
Yeah, absolutely. But safety first, guys, okay? And I know that Supra, when you are on a Supra box, it can send a notification to a contact whether you're safe or not.
Also, Frank Sirigliano, I can never say his last name, he's from Rolo Home Inspections. He also is a police sergeant for Washingtonville. And there were times where I've had to ask him a question on who somebody is, and he's done a background on them. So that's also someone who you can also, reach out to as well. That will tell you.
Yeah, but thank you for sharing that, Zoe. I'm gonna
I'll
download
have to
that.
look up that, yeah.
Next
What's
slide,
that?
please.
Forewarn,
Forewarn.
FOREWARN.
So remember, your goal is to sell a home, not show homes. Pay attention to your buyer's body language and the cues to avoid continuing to show them homes that they don't like, even if they are the best match ones from your search. Don't be afraid to ask questions, right? Communication, you want to seek first to understand. If you feel like maybe you and your buyer are not on the same page, ask them, what do you like about this home? Right? Even if you don't want to put in an offer, what are the things about it that you do like? And what are the things that you don't like? And then you'll really understand, okay, they don't like this, that's a deal breaker. We're moving on, right? We won't look at homes like that again. Okay, next slide. Reason buyers hesitate. They're afraid of commitment. They don't like minor details of the home. They feel like they haven't seen enough homes. They need to sleep on it and or get the opinion of a trusted advisor. So it's our job to help our buyers make the best decisions for themselves. Buying a home is a really big deal, right? In the next slide, we're looking at like ways that we can help them to facilitate decision-making, right? Always go back to their motivation. Remind them of why they want to do it, right? Remind them of why it's important to do it. Go back to their needs and wants. Advise them as their counsel and their fiduciary. Solve their challenges, ask questions, help them to calculate costs of waiting, right? We buy real estate and wait. We don't wait to buy real estate. All right. Any ahas, anybody? All right. Success with sellers. Help price a home competitively, 21%. Help seller market home to potential buyers, 20%. Help sell a home within specific time frame, 16%. Help sellers find ways to fix up their home for it to sell, 16%. And the others, 27%. Who can tell me what this chart tells you when you're working with sellers? What's important to sellers?
Getting their home sold, getting the most money.
So 20% is other. Help find a buyer for the home, help with negotiations and dealing with buyers, help with paperwork, inspections, preparing for settlement. It's important to know what their motivation is, right? We've talked about that already. Pricing a home competitively. Some people don't want to price their home competitively. They want to make more money, right? So, all right. So seller needs price, time frame, and conveyances. It's the second brain fart that I've had. Start in the same place with sellers as we do with buyers. Their needs analysis. You need to know their price, their time frame. So you can get them great offers from ready, willing, and able buyers, right? Express our value proposition. So sellers' lives change or sellers' worlds change. Just as in buyers, when they aren't going to think as they should, you need to revisit and perhaps even revise their needs analysis. Same thing as buyers, either seller's life can change or the world around the seller can change. So I had a coming soon listing. We were going to take pictures this weekend. Sellers called me and told me that you know, his dog has health issues and he really wants to focus on the dog for a couple weeks to figure out what's wrong with him, right? I knew if something like that happened from the first time I met him, that would be the result, right? Because he talked about his dogs like they were children, that they are his children, right? And so it's important that, you know, we revisit and understand and show, you know, some support and some compassion. And I followed up with him and said, hey, how's Hunter doing? Is he feeling any better? What's going on? Didn't even talk about real estate, checked in with him and his dog. And so now we're back on track to get back on the market. You know, it's just about understanding your client, their needs, and what's going on in their life. All right, so what is within the seller's control? Price is within the seller's control. They decide ultimately. We take a consultative approach, right? We tell them what we think they should list it at, and they ultimately make that decision. And condition, right? Nobody else is responsible for maintaining your property but you. And it's essential to continuing to earn the most amount of equity possible, right? So we always want to reiterate to our clients, you want to maintain this and grow your equity. It's important to maintain your home. Okay. Sensitive seller conversations. All right. Who's had a sensitive conversation with sellers?
I have with buyers.
Right? Odors from pets, smoking, cluttered conditions, deferred maintenance, personalized decor, illegal activities, guns, valuables. You know, it's sometimes you're walking into somebody's personal space and it's definitely a tough conversation to say to them, hey, we got to figure out what that smell is, right? Because if that means $20,000 to $30,000, let's figure out what that smell is and get it smelling good in here, and it'll help you to make some more money, right? If you're having a tough conversation, always try to tie it back into what their motivation is and what it is that they're looking to accomplish, you know, because then they're much more willing to hear something that they might not want to hear. All right, so great agent-client communication. That provides a strong foundation for sustaining relationship, sets and manages expectations proactively throughout the transaction, creates peace of mind for your clients, and enhances your credibility. Now that we've talked about the words we can use and how they fulfill our goals, can you think of anything else you can do to enhance these 4 pillars of great communication? What are some ways we can, you know, enhance these 4 pillars of great communication with our client, with our seller client? Our goal, you and I, right? We're a team. They are selling their home, but I always say when we price it, when we get it on the market, when we get an accepted offer, right? Our goal is to help you to get to South Carolina. We are going to do X, Y, and Z to help you to get there. All right, next. Unfortunately, there is another uncomfortable conversation you may be forced to have with your seller. You may have to inform your client that they are violating Fair Housing Act. And if they refuse to stop in their course of action, that you'll have to withdraw their, you know, the listing and cancel your listing agreement. Just remind the client of their obligations under fair housing, discontinue representation of the client in the event that you are aware of a fair housing violation. Report the incident to your broker immediately, fully document the situation, and consult your attorney if uncertain. Please, please, please make sure you're making it very clear to clients. And, you know, reading through the fair housing disclosure with them, and do not be afraid to make it clear if you feel as if that they are violating a fair housing law, right? It's not just their butts on the line, but it's your license on the line and your reputation, right? Like that's important in this business. We are in the people business and the relationship business. So, all right. Here we go to reputation, right? We just talked about that. No commission is worth your representation or your reputation, excuse me. We live by the Y4C2Ts, right? And it's important that You're remembering that as long as you are making a good decision, it's going to pay off in the long run, right? So even if you lose one client, don't ever go against what you believe in and jeopardize your reputation, because that can hurt you more in the long run than losing one client. So, okie dokie. 14-step marketing plan for systems. Capitalize on your listings by marketing your brand at the same time to bring in more listings and more buyers, right? So listings, we lead with listings. Listings, leverage, and leads. We lead with listings. So far, we focused on our relationship and communication with the seller. We've also covered seller needs and saw that sellers are looking for an agent to market their home. Let's just talk a little bit about how you are going to market the listing and your brand. So highly productive listing agents market both their brand and their listing at the same time. If anybody has seen any of our marketing materials on our team, you'd see that we're marketing our listing, but we're also marketing our brand. Everything has our logo on it. We also use the word we and our and us, right? Because we are a team. So when I meet with clients, I'm not saying my marketing plan, it's our marketing plan. Let me show you how our marketing plan can help you to net the most money for your home. All right. So there is a 14-step marketing plan in the participation guide. Are you guys seeing that? Okay, we'll go through that in just a minute. The message you put out to track prospective buyers and sellers is everything. Why would they want to contact you in this market? What would they get if they did? There's two questions. These two questions are the heart of all effective messaging. So who here wants to share? Who here wants to share what they're saying to their clients to attract them in this market? What's important in your marketing plan? All right, so moving on to the 14th step. Your MLS listing reflects your brand, so get it right. Who here's seen like a listing? Just raise your hand real quick, either on screen or in the chat, whatever you want to do. That's like all in caps. Like, why are you yelling at me? Why are you yelling at everybody? You sound so aggressive. Like, you know, misspelling, capitalization where it's not needed. No attention to detail, right? Does that speak to that person's brand? Yeah, Erin's shaking her head, yes. Absolutely. All right, so have the right documents for your region and market center uploaded. Compliance, 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 right? Utilize the right professionals to get pictures and floor plans done. There are a lot of people I know specifically, like I get a lot of people reaching out to me like, hey, use me for your pictures, right? Make sure you're using the right person that's going to, you know, highlight your listing the best possible way. I have different photographers based on what type of listing I'm taking, whether it's a luxury, whether it's, you know, where the location is, what the lighting is like, right? Like use the right photographer for your client. And set the right schedule for your listing. What we mean by that is, what is the right schedule for listing in your market? Do certain areas have broker agent tours on particular days? We put it coming soon on Monday or Tuesday, the absolute latest, to start showing on Friday, right? So that's where we've seen the most success. If we get it in the MLS in the beginning of the week without allowing showings until the weekend, we're front loading that first weekend with a whole lot of showings, right? And then our client is saying, wow, it's not even on the market yet. And look at all of these showing requests we've received already, right? Because we're marketing it in the front so that we can get that first weekend to be as successful as possible. Okay, number 4. Oh, thought that went under 4. Sorry, guys. Import listing data directly from KWLS. So who here uses Command Designs to create some of this marketing material for you? I do, right? Canva's pretty easy to use too.
Well, I just used that.
That
exact
one?
one.
Yeah. create postcards to send, unless you're using the concierge service that the office has, which is a great service, and we've used that plenty of times for just sold and just listed postcards, right? If you're doing direct mail and that's part of your marketing plan. Which I can tell you from somebody who has successfully taken quite a bit of listings from direct mail, people don't get things in the mail very often. The only other person's things I get are Joe Rubio's, if you're still on here, neighbor. We send each other our print marketing. Not a lot of people are getting stuff in the mail anymore, right? Everything is being shoved into our faces as consumers and down our throats via social media, via the internet, via, you know, TV and telecommunications, right? Be different. That stands out. All right, next, and again, concierge service that the office offers for print marketing is very, very affordable. If they look great, you can reach out and have it customized with that marketing company if you'd like, have your logo added, whatever the case may be. Very affordable, and you know, we've gotten great results for it. So I know Erin has more information about that. If anybody has questions about that, you can reach out to her, okay? All right, so proper signage. I believe frames work better than these things here, because those blow over all the time. They look really great for the first 2 days, and then you're fixing it all the time, right? In addition to having proper signage, just make sure that that signage is compliant before you're investing in your business and spending money on signs. Just send it to our compliance department, give them an opportunity to look it over to make sure that we're following compliance guidelines. You don't want to spend, you know, a couple grand on signage and frames and everything, and then end up having to throw it away because it's not compliant, okay? All right. So any ahas so far from marketing? All right, success with co-agents. So at this point in the transaction, you're likely to be communicating with other agents, right? Several different agents in the event that you're working with a listing you've spoken to. I mean, I hope that you would at least follow up with anybody who hasn't received delivered feedback via showing time. That way, even if, listen, we all know, if you're showing the house and a week later you still haven't provided me with feedback, I get that your client is not interested, but if I can get a little bit more details to provide that to my seller, that just shows that you're willing to go above and beyond and provide a higher level of service. It's an additional value proposition, right? All right, so communicating with several different agents, whether it's a listing agent or the buyer's agents, depending on what side you're representing, it is very important, right? Always remember that you're making a first impression and you're going to get on the agents who may have a great deal to do with your client's success for buying or selling a home, right? So we specifically believe on our team, and I know that this is part of Keller culture, like we are responsible for the whole transaction. Even if we're not representing the other side, it's our job to do the best for our client by making sure that, you know, if we're not getting an answer from the buyer's agent, then we're reaching out to the buyer's attorney, right? Like we're reaching out and we're getting that information because it's our responsibility to help our clients reach their ultimate goals. All right. Treat people with respect and professionalism and use that as an opportunity to build your downline, profit share. The more relationships you build with agents in the community, the better, right? Any one of you that are on here right now, I've grown to know you a little bit through Ignite, or, you know, you may have hosted an open house for one of my listings, or please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you with anything, even if it's a simple question. Okay. All right. Any ahas? This is going to wrap up our section on our session on transactions. Now we're going to get heading into our daily success systems, right? So for the next, no, we're not doing it. We can role play if anybody wants to. You're happy to call role play partner. If you need a role play partner, reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with somebody. But we're looking to do start to track how many conversations you've had in a day, how many contacts you're adding to the database, number of handwritten notes, 10-5-1 social media engagement. We're gonna be adding enrichment, writing down appointments, agreements, and closings between now and the next time we meet. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in relationship with me. This is a really great affirmation. Anybody who practices affirmations, add this to it, right? Tell yourself how people are happy to work with you and be in relationship with you, and it will come to fruition. All right, before we hop off here, does anybody have any questions, concerns? I know we're like 2 minutes over, right? We were till 12:30, I think. Yeah. Erin, if you could just put my email in the chat, it's pretty easy. DanielleRiggs@kw.com. I will be teaching the negotiations section next week.
That's Monday or Wednesday?
We moved it to Thursday,
It's gonna
right?
be Thursday, the 10th, due to Command Con. So I would really think everybody should be in their market centers on Wednesday, the 9th, to attend Command Con at 11 o'clock.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad that you were here. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, Command Con, great opportunity. You know, if you're available to be here, or even if you're available to be on and listen, like some of our peers are today, it's gonna be some, you know, great information. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thanks for being here, guys.